Hey guys, Mana here, bringing you another Warlock guide. This time I'm going to be talking about everything you need to know to be a successful Destruction Warlock. So, if you've never played a Destro Warlock, just think of it as a Fire Mage. If the Fire Mage didn't need to worry about his mana pool and was on crack. So, for the most part, this should be how you're going to be speccing. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. The only thing I can think of is maybe taking out 2 points out of Nether Protection and putting them in Aftermath, just for some utility. I just don't, it's not really that necessary. I mean, if you got a good raid composition, it shouldn't really matter. You shouldn't really need that Aftermath. But, I mean, if you need the utility, go for it. It's going to help your group out. So, for your Prime Glyphs, you're going to be using Immolate, Imp, and Conflagrate. There's no other options really, just use those three. For your major glyphs, you're going to be using Glyph of Life Tap, and then after that it's really your choice. I recommend the Glyph of Health Stone and the Glyph of Soul Link for raids. And for 5-mans, if you need CC, you can also go with the Glyph of Fear instead. But yeah, that's basically it for the major glyphs. And as always, minor glyphs, it doesn't really matter, whatever you want. So for your demon, you're kind of going to want this guy. He's pretty good. He is pretty good. Blizzard. So, for your stat priorities, and this is the last time I'll say it in the guide, so you guys can look forward to me not repeating myself anymore. Intellect is better than hit. It is. Once you're hit capped, your next best stat is going to be haste, then crit, and then mastery. Alright guys, for gems, nothing's changed from the 2 previous guides. You're going to want a Burning Shadow Spirit Diamond as your meta, and if it's too expensive, you're still going to want a Chaotic Shadow Spirit Diamond. For your red sockets, you're going to want a Brilliant Inferno Ruby. For your yellow, you're going to want a Reckless Ember Topaz. And for your blue, you're going to want a Veiled Demon's Eye. And remember that if the socket bonus is bad, then you're going to want to ignore the socket bonus and just put a Brilliant Inferno Ruby on the item instead. And remember that you can tell that the socket bonus is bad if it has less than 20 intellect or less than 30 of a secondary stat on it. So just like the last times for enchanting, I'll include links in the description box below to Wowhead so you can see which enchants are best. And just like last times, I'll also include links to the cheap alternatives that can work just as well. So for reforging, nothing's really changed. If you're not hit capped, you're going to want to get hit capped with reforging. So you're going to want to take any mastery and any crit that you have, and you're going to want to reforge that to hit. And if you're already hit capped, then you're going to want to take that mastery and crit and reforge it to haste instead. So again, for professions, nothing's changed. You're still going to want 2 that'll allow you to increase your intellect. And yeah, I still recommend tailoring as one of them. It's still a very, very strong profession. Alright guys, for your spell priority, and take out a pen and paper right now. Improve Soulfire. You're going to want to keep this buff on you at all times. Seriously, as close to 100% of the time as possible. This is your main priority. You're going to want to be casting Immolate when it's close to running out. You're going to want to use Conflagrate as soon as it comes off cooldown. You're going to want to cast Bane of Doom as soon as it falls off the target. You're going to want to refresh Corruption when it's close to running out. And if you get your instant cast Soulfire from Empowered Imp, you're going to be casting Soulfire. Now, you might be thinking, but Mono, what about the whole improved Soulfire thing? I don't get it. What, instant cast Soulfires? Improved Soulfire? What? Alright, well, first of all, I'll answer that, but let me just say, please don't interrupt me while I'm doing my guide, alright? That's pretty bad-mannered, man. So, what this means for improved Soulfire is that even if you don't have an instant cast Soulfire, you're still going to be hard casting your Soulfires. It's important. You have to do that. It takes forever, but you have to do that to maintain the buff. Now, another thing to note is that if your Soulburn is off cooldown, you can use your Soulburn to also maintain your improved Soulfire because Soulburn makes your Soulfire instant cast. So if you need to cast your Soulfires on the move, you should be using Soulburn Soulfire, and this will help you a lot actually because you're not always going to have that empowered proc when you really need it. If you find yourself in melee range, you're going to be using Shadowflame whenever it's off cooldown. You're going to be using your Demon Soul whenever it's off cooldown as well. You're going to be using your Chalice Bolt whenever it's off cooldown. If the boss is below 20% HP, you're going to be using Shadowburn whenever it's off cooldown. And finally, you're going to be using Incinerate as your filler spell whenever none of the previously mentioned things need to be done. So on movement, if you do not need to maintain your improved Soulfire and your Conflagrate is off cooldown, if Bane of Doom still has plenty of time on it, and if Corruption is not close to running out, and then you should be using Flame if Immolate is close to running out, like very close to running out, where like it'll run out before you stop moving. You should be using Flame to make sure it doesn't fall off. But if you're in no trouble with this, then you should be life tapping to get some mana back, because that's probably going to be a lot bigger than just one Flame. But if you don't need mana, then you should just be casting a Flame regardless. For big AoE pulls, like for example the ads on Maloriak, you should be using Rain of Fire and Shadowflame. You got the Infernal too, but remember it's on a 10-minute cooldown, so you kind of got to pick your battles with that one. And for smaller groups, you're going to be using Immolate and Corruption, basically just putting it all on all the targets. And you're going to be using your single target spell priority on your main target, and while also maintaining your Immolate and Corruption on your secondary targets. And then pretty much when the main target dies, you just go to your next target and you keep using your spell priority and just keep maintaining your dots. Now, another important spell that Destro has is called Bane of Havoc. Now, what this does is that you put Bane of Havoc on a target, and 15% of the damage that you do to any other target will also be dealt to the target with Bane of Havoc. So, for instance, if you're on Valiona and Thuralion and you're fighting Valiona, you can put Bane of Havoc on Thuralion, and 15% of the damage that you do to Valiona will be dealt to Thuralion. So, if it's possible to use Bane of Havoc, and if it's safe to use it, you should definitely be using it. And lastly, for add-ons, I've already gone over Quartz, I've gone over Need to Know, I've gone over Omni CC, and those are all still quite good, and I do recommend them for destruction. But another one that you guys can check out, it's called Power Auras. This one is pretty robust. It does quite a lot of stuff, and it can be pretty overwhelming at first, and at least it was for me. In fact, I might actually do a guide on it in the future, but I mean, if I don't, there's already plenty of guides out there already that you can find on the internet. But the reason why I like it is because, as I've said before, maintaining improved Soulfire is really important, and with this you can make an aura that's just incredibly noticeable, and you can even add a timer to it so that you know when it's going to run out. You can just make it incredibly easy to maintain your improved Soulfire. In fact, you can trivialize it, and that's actually very important for destruction, because that's just more time spent focusing on other things and not just your improved Soulfire debuff. So that about does it for the destruction guide, guys. As always, if you have any questions about the guide, feel free to leave them below in the comments. I do try to answer as many of them as possible. In fact, I think sometimes I answer them a little bit too much, and I leave this giant wall of uploader comments. I don't know if that's annoying to you guys. It probably would be to me to see all those comments there. It kind of blocks out all the user comments. But anyway, something I haven't mentioned in my previous videos is that if there's ever a small update, I'll update the description, I'll update the description box below with the update. That way I don't have to make a brand new video every time a small update comes out. But if there's ever a major change, that's when I'll make a new video. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh yeah, one more thing. If you guys have any questions for this Tuesday's episode of More Dots, feel free to send me a private message, or even just leave them in the comments below, and I'll check it out. And finally, if you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe. Later, guys.